If you ever thought you have what it takes to be part of the most elite special forces, this video will change your mind. The extreme discipline, endurance, and strength it takes to be one of these superhumans is insane. Just look at their training regimes, from surviving in the jungle with no equipment to jumping into the water with your hands tied behind your back. This stuff is wild. From around the world, we have gathered the deadliest, the best trained, and the most badass special forces of different countries. A countdown from the bottom of the barrel to the toughest elite force that the world can boast about. United States Marine Corps Force Reconnaissance. The Marine Corps Force Reconnaissance is a special task force group from America that specializes in dealing with land and sea operations. With a rigorous schedule set for this branch of the Marine Corporation, the candidates must go through 1.5 to 2 years of training to be part of this high-standard group. There are about 5 phases in the routine that test the physical and mental endurance of the candidates. These include marksmanship, combat training, and even skydiving into the ocean. All this evaluation is done to see if these hardened soldiers have what it takes to be part of the Marine Corps Force Reconnaissance. Kopassus, Indonesia. The next group on our list comes from Indonesia. With a towering presence, this special force has gained the attention of both local and international media. The Indonesian Special Forces have done some notable work. Securing hostages from the Garuda Indonesia Flight 206 and taking control of regional rebellions were some of their properly documented and successful missions. The training program requires multiple sessions where the potential candidates unite with international forces for joint operations. Kopassus has done various joint training exercises and operations with other special forces around the world, from the United States to South Korea, China, Australia, and Pakistan. If you take a look at their equipment training, your only thought would be to not be at the other end of the gunfire. Nobody's walking out alive with those marksmen aimed at you. But this is the kind of intense training these officers go through. They are put on the ground while heavy shots are fired at them with no precise angle set in motion. They have to go from one end to the other. It tests the mental capability of the soldiers and allows them to work under stressful conditions. Other forms of physical training are just as hard. With hard pecs and a steady mind, these soldiers are capable of pulling hundreds of pounds on their backs. Some of their training even demands them to fight blindfolded. Now that's metal. 9th Paratrooper Assault Regiment, Italy. The 9th Paratrooper Assault Regiment has its own share of successful missions and is one of the oldest special forces around. Their origins take them back to the First World War. Since then, they have been deployed at multiple locations to keep peace and control in the region. Their operations consist of multiple strategic responsibilities, including but not limited to raids, protecting sensitive and important personnel, rescue and target operations, hunting down prominent enemy figures, and various counterterrorism drills around the country. Their training cycle is quite extensive and requires the recruiters to pass through a 2-year session. You need to have parachute training stamped on your record to even apply. But that is just the start of the ride. The training sessions are divided into 2 phases. The first one is mostly concerned with basic survival skills, while the second one focuses on specialized drills. If you have excelled by the end of the 24-month-long routine, you can proudly run for the Italian Special Force. The training sessions are carried out in mountainous regions, jungles, deserts, and even rough terrains. So the soldiers become capable of suffering through the harsh weather conditions of any country. One of the officers reported that they had to lie down in an anti-tank mine. Now that may sound take to some of you until you realize how he had to do it. The soldier had to lay down a magnetic mine while a tank passed over them. Frogman Corps, Denmark. The Danish Vikings and the Danish butter cookies are 2 contrasting traits of Denmark, but the Danish Special Forces are on an extremity that goes beyond the likes of the Vikings. Their training program is quite short in comparison with other forces, only about 6 months. But that does not mean that the recruits have it easy. With long marches going kilometers to tiring swimming cycles, the officers have to work very hard to make it into the higher ranks. Officers report that they have to change their gears while being thrown into the swimming pools. Then, they have to hold their breath for about 2 minutes if they have to successfully pass the mission. Apart from this, the recruiters also have to pass the hypothermia test and put their bodies into freezing, harsh water to get to the other end of the finish line. There are reportedly only a handful of agents in the Frogman Corps, approximately 150 to 200 individuals. The success rate of the training cycle is so low that many are eliminated in just the first few weeks. Only 10% of the people make it to the end. And then, only a few of these 10% elites are given the honor of being the modernized Danish Vikings. So it won't be wrong to say this special force only takes in the best of the best. Special Forces, Republic of Korea. The Korean Special Task Force were modeled after the United States Army Special Forces. This is why they have a strong and close relationship with the Green Berets. A main part of their training requirement is that they run international drills in Poland, Ireland, and Northern Europe. This is why they are also associated with the United Nations for being part of the Peace Troopers. The Korean Special Forces go through a year-long training cycle. About 6 months are dedicated to bringing the soldiers up to speed with survival skills. Then, they are pumped through a specialization course that brings them to the ranks and standards of an officer of the elite special force. Their training includes a lot of taekwondo, from basic one-on-one combat battles to smacking their head on a stack of multiple blocks. Their intense training puts them through the toughest challenge of resilience. The recruits are required to train in the harsh, snowy weather so that they remain unaffected by the cold winds hitting their bodies. That is the kind of resilience you need to be a part of the Korean Special Forces. Snow Leopard Commando Unit, China. This unit of special forces remains hidden, even inside the country itself. In their efforts to do intelligence operations in secret, they have managed to keep most of their existence a secret. But from what we do know, getting into the special force is not open to everybody. The recruits are only taken from the police who have had certain training in the armed forces. Once someone is allowed into the training cycle, they must endure a series of grueling tests to show their capabilities. They must run for kilometers, all the while bearing heavy weights. This way, they can showcase their physical strength under stressful conditions. Their rejection rate is 50%. It is a gamble on whether or not you will make it to the end. But the most atrocious part of the training routine is the Hell Week or the Devil Week. The recruits are only allowed to sleep for an hour a day and 4 to 5 hours a week. They must overcome their sleepy minds and run hundreds of kilometers with hundreds of pounds dumped on their backs. But it does not get any better from there either. Near the end of the week, the recruits go through a fire barrier on no sleep. They must jump over a fire and crawl through the flames as they go from one end to the other, trusting nothing but their instincts. This regime is certainly not for the weak. Only the strongest of the strongest get through. National Gendarmerie Intervention Group, France. With only about 400 individuals, the French Special Force is one of the toughest and the most experienced military groups out there. They have been in hundreds of missions, successfully stamping their name as one of the best combat units in history. Stats show that these soldiers have secured around 600 hostages from dangerous situations and punched 1,800 successful missions on their track record. This unit is thrown in to keep control of prison riots and negotiate hijack operations. The task force is also given the responsibility of handling biological and nuclear attacks. The selection process for being one of these 400 elite fighters is around 14 months long, but you must pass the screening if you want to make it to the training program. Apart from demanding physical and mental tests, the recruits must work on their team-building skills. Only then do they have a chance to be part of the National Gendarmerie Intervention Group. Looking at the importance of their missions, it is only fair. GSG-9 Germany. The GSG-9 are one of the most skillful operators of the Special Force. They are often considered normal military officers, but go on international drills, giving them the ultimate status of the Special Task Force. The recruits are eligible only if they have been in the police with 2 years of experience on their belts. Currently, the German Special Forces have approximately 180 soldiers, but to become one is not easy. They go through a rigorous training session that demands them to put in their best physical and mental capabilities for an excruciating 10 months. The cycle is divided into 2 phases, but the acceptance rate is so low that only about 7 to 10% make it out of the training program. The toughest part of the whole program is an endurance routine that tests all the skills possibly present in a human being. The recruits are left in the middle of a secluded location with a ration of food and a compass. They have to make their way through the obstacles and successfully arrive at a designated location. That might seem like a normal drill, but the recruits have to do it with only 2 hours of sleep a week. Special Air Service Regiment, Australia. The training program of the Australian Special Forces is one of the shortest routines out there, but it does not mean it lacks intensity. The recruits are handpicked from the Australian military, and the Special Force training drill is only there to polish their skills. The soldiers are responsible for controlling peace within the country and handling counter-terrorism operations. The acceptance rate for the candidates is around 10 to 30. After being picked to apply, the candidate has to go through a rigorous 4-phased training routine that tests the spirit of the soldier in their extreme mental and physical capacity. You can judge the intensity of the training sessions by this simple stat. About 48 soldiers have died in the 50 years of the Special Air Service Regiment's existence, and nearly 200 have sustained injuries. The Special Air Service Regiment is also quite social with the international community. They have forged relationships with most of the special task forces of the world and often conduct exercises and drills to exchange knowledge and skills. Marcos, India. Next on our list is this special force from India, the Marcos. They are specialized to run skillful operations on both land and in water. Their most successful operation was during the Mumbai attacks when they rescued hostages from terrorists. Being a squad specializing in marine training, a lot of focus goes on the officers having endurance inside the water. The applicants are made to do consistent and heavy physical exercises in icy cold water to make them immune to extreme mental stress and weather conditions. But the land exercises are just as brutal. You are forced to run tens and hundreds of kilometers during night and day with baggage and heavy battle loads. And if that is not enough, you go on to do the brutal death crawl. It is not the simple death crawl you would find in normal training sessions. This one requires you to crawl through the mud with huge loads on the backs as you aim to complete 20 kilometers minimum. The training conditions are so tough that only one person out of 1,000 participants succeeds. The extensive training program runs for around 2.5 to 3 years. The regime runs through 4 different phases. One of these phases is especially hard as it involves working through drills without any sleep. Most officers report that getting 4 hours of sleep is a blessing in that particular phase. Fuerza de Guerra Naval Especial, Spain. The Fuerza de Guerra Naval Especial comes all the way from Spain. Most of this task force is composed of Marines. but they are more than capable of performing special operations and surveillance missions on land. From assisting in military operations to being in the front and carrying out victim evacuation in delicate situations, the country can count on this elite unit to help them in every counterterrorism need. The training requires the men to work daily through multiple setups stationed at the facility. There is a submarine base, multiple shooting ranges, rough terrains, beaches, and even a port. They all help the officers to work hard on their skills and bring their A-game to every mission. Not only is their training tough, but getting into the force is just as hard. Sources say that it has a high rejection rate, allowing only 40% of the people who come with the hopes of joining the elite forces. The training is divided into 2 phases that may last somewhere from 9 months to 14 months. The first phase tests the mental and physical endurance of the candidates, where they are bombarded with extreme stress and fatigue. The second phase works on specialization and recruiting the student with various operational tasks and equipment. JW Grom, Poland. The Special Forces of Poland do not attract much media attention, and that's by design because they like to work in secret. They are one of the deadliest groups out there, so much so that even the United States prefers partnering up with them for various missions. The vigorous drills require the recruits to go through a series of burdening and exhausting physical exercises. They push you to your limit, which is why only a handful get to wear the Grom badge. One of the drills has the soldiers diving deep into a pool of icy cold water. But that's not where it ends. The recruits must combat with another soldier while holding their breath for up to 2 minutes. The training routine for the Polish is quite hard, but it also comes with its own sets of conditions. You cannot drink alcohol or fight with other people outside of the force. This contract might be hard to follow, which is why only 1,500 members are present in the JW Grom. Eco Cobra, Austria. With only 1,140 members in their ranks, the EKO Cobra stings have been proven to be quite deadly. The recruits are only eligible to apply if they have been part of the Austrian Federal Police before. After applying, the candidate goes through a series of medical, psychological, physical, and mental tasks to check their endurance. This ensures that they can survive the brutal conditions of the training regime coming up. After the training program, the recruits can specialize in a 6-month course of their choosing. The available options are diving, sniping, marksmanship, and hand-to-hand combat, among many others. The group is quite skillful. Even with a handful of the members, they can easily deploy at the required location with only 70 minutes on the clock. They have also shown their expert presence in multiple known attacks like the Munich shooting, the 2006 Lebanon War, and the 2020 Vienna attack. This makes them one of the most experienced and powerful special forces in existence. Kommando Spezialkräfte, Germany. The Kommando Spezialkräfte. German task force is open to all people, that is, if they pass an 18-month-long endurance test. How hard is that test? Well, the passing ratio is merely 8 to 10%, so yeah, it is super difficult. But the pain does not end there. If you do manage to pull through, you have to go through an extensive and intense training routine lasting about 2 to 3 years. The interesting thing is that you get to experience worldwide training in these years. In a span of 20 courses, the candidate must showcase the best of their abilities in places like surviving in the Arctic terrain in Norway, a mountainous patch in Austria, a dry desert in Texas, land and sea drills at San Diego, and a jungle operation at Belize. And that is only a few of the 17 places you must visit. One of the hardest drills is running a 90-hour-long run that tests not only your mental capacity, but the spirit it takes to get to the finish line. Delta Force, USA. The Delta Force is one of the most lethal groups in the world. They have a passing ratio that scares most candidates away. Only 10 of the people make it through the intense training routine, but the training itself is what really tests your fear and physical capacity. The exercises of the Delta Force have never been made public. However, the eligibility criteria require you to be part of the military who has also participated in an active war. That's a small portion of the army, so it is no surprise that the Delta Force currently hosts just 1,000 members. Most of their operations are run in secret, and the recruits themselves don't know what the Special Force is looking for in an individual. The only thing they do know is that they make you go through the toughest of drills to make you more than a superhuman. If you are wondering what kind of missions they are involved in, the Delta Force was part of taking out hostages in Panama and securing Saddam Hussein in 2003. So when you see this unit on the ground, you know that global knowledge is about to be made. Alpha Group, Russia. The Russian Special Forces are quite literally the most brutal task group out there. Through many living examples in history, this special force usually aims to kill, no matter the consequences. Now, it may include collateral damage, but that is not a big concern for these guys. So what kind of person can get into this elite unit? Well, you do not just need your physical and mental capabilities to be sharp, but your intellectual skills must also be top-notch. The candidates applying for the task force cannot have any criminal record on them. They must also be willing to go through several extensive background checks to verify their clean records. The series of endurance tasks run from basic to advanced. The latter has many gruesome drills, but one stands out as the deadliest: the pain endurance. It is just as the name suggests that the candidates must suffer through extreme pain without giving out. The candidates are also put through a test that analyzes their survival skills, such as building a shelter and finding food in the wild. The craziest part? The candidates must be able to perform surgery on themselves. Yeah, that's a no from me. Special Services Group, Pakistan. The SSG Group of Pakistan is one of its most prominent special task forces. But they are not just popular within the country. They have also made their mark in international waters. The SSG has conducted training sessions with the United States, Turkey, and even China. The group has the honor of having the toughest diving combat courses in the world. SSG only allows people with military training into their program. From the large number of 5,600 soldiers that apply, the passing ratio is extremely low. Only 5% of the candidates pull through the deadly training sessions. The program designed for the selection of soldiers runs for 9 months. During the drills, they must move from one city to another on foot, with a 36-kilogram bag strapped on their shoulders. If you want a bit of perspective, they must run in full gear for 8 kilometers in 50 minutes. They are only allowed 12 hours for a 58 kilometers run, and that's just one of the training regimes. Joint Task Force 2, Canada. Being one of the most elite special forces in the world, there is surprisingly little that you can find about Joint Task Force 2, but you will notice in history that they have played a key role in maintaining control in fragile situations. Their skillful involvement in missions in Libya and Afghanistan saved many lives after all. If you want to assess their skills, you will be astonished to know that their training routine is not just about surviving a normal war. They are equipped to survive biological, chemical, and even nuclear wars. Another exciting fact about the Canadian Task Force is that they hold the proud badge of killing the largest number of terrorists in the world. The only known thing about their training routine is that the candidates are required to go through basic and advanced survival skills for 7 weeks. Each week pushes the soldiers to showcase their innermost strength for all the rigorous physical exercises. A big part of their routine focuses on concealing themselves in dangerous situations. Navy SEALs, USA. The Navy SEALs are one of the toughest and deadliest elite forces in the world. If you are looking for a gruesome training routine, you might not find one more excruciating than the Navy SEALs program. The recruits must display extreme endurance during the high-strength drills with a spirit that is unbreakable. From going on long runs to getting pushed into the pool with the hands behind the backs, the basic skills are just as brutal as the advanced skills. You can only use your teeth to undo the knots, but that is just the start of the painful routine. The Hell Week is the most stressful and painful part for the soldiers. With only 4 hours of sleep, the recruits must go through exhausting physical exercises. One of the popular tasks is lying down in the sea, right where the waves come crashing at you. This is to help the recruits fight in the ocean, even if giant waves are on top of them. If you think that's brutal, let's go to the end of the training routine, where only 20% of the candidates make it through. Here, you are subjected to torture-surviving drills and forced to plunge into the icy cold water in Alaska for 8 long minutes. Apparently, more recruits die in training than they do in operations. Special Air Service, United Kingdom. We are at the top of the countdown, and at number 1 with the deadliest special force in the world, we have the Britain Task Force known as the Special Air Service. The training program of the SAS is quite brutal, but only runs for 5 months. You must go through 6 marathons in only 5 days, with 55 pounds worth of bricks loaded on your back. There have been many candidates who have died or been submitted to mental facilities because of the intensity of the drills. And it is only the first phase of the routine. If you somehow make it to the next phase, an excruciating Hell Week is waiting for you to prove your strength. The recruits must also survive in an Indian jungle to polish their survival instincts. But this is not the final drill. After only 5% of the individuals are left, they are then put into a challenging 2-phase Hunger Game ritual. With only a compass, a bag of clothes, and a map, the recruit is asked to reach a certain location while an army of soldiers is out in the open to hunt him down. Note that no candidate has passed this traumatizing test. The second phase includes the torture endurance as part of preparing the recruits for interrogation resistance. Makes you wonder if these people who do pass are even human. That's all on our video of the 20 most lethal special force operatives around the world. Which one is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. Do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button to keep seeing exciting videos like this on your feed. Until next time, goodbye.